The Shadow in Kobe. In the quiet, unassuming city of Kobe, nestled between mountains and the sea, the year 1997 began like any other. Families went about their daily lives, children played in parks, and schools buzzed with the energy of youth. But beneath this peaceful surface, a dark shadow lurked, one that no one in Kobe could have anticipated. This shadow belonged to a boy, no older than 14, who would soon leave an indelible scar on the city and the nation. The name that would soon echo through Japan's news headlines was Seito Sakakibara, a name that, though anonymous to the public, would strike terror into the hearts of parents and children alike. Seito was not like other boys. Behind his school uniform and seemingly normal demeanor, there was a darkness he kept hidden. From a young age, he was fascinated by violence, by the suffering of others. He tortured small animals in secret, reveling in the power it gave him over life and death. But soon, this cruelty was no longer enough. He wanted more, something bigger, something more dangerous. It was a cool, gray morning in February when the first signs of something wrong began to surface. Ayaka Yamashita, a bright and lively 10-year-old girl, left for school like she did every day. She waved goodbye to her mother, skipping down the sidewalk toward her classroom. But that evening, Ayaka didn't come home. Her parents waited by the door, the hours stretching into night, their hearts heavy with fear. The next morning, her body was found. She had been bludgeoned to death, her life cut short by an unseen monster. The city was shaken. A young child had been murdered, but no one knew by whom or why. Parents clutched their children tighter, wondering who could do such a thing. But for Seito, this was only the beginning. Months passed, and while Kobe tried to recover from Ayaka's tragic death, Seito's dark hunger grew stronger. He no longer wanted to hide in the shadows. He wanted to send a message. On May 27, 1997, Seito set his sights on another victim, an 11-year-old boy named Jun Heisei. Jun, a quiet and polite student, was walking home from school when he was abducted. No one saw what happened next, but in the early hours of the next day, Kobe would wake to a nightmare they couldn't have imagined. At the gates of Tainohata Elementary School, a horrifying discovery awaited. A janitor, making his rounds, spotted something odd in front of the entrance. It was a human head. The decapitated head of Jun Heisei posed like a macabre warning. His eyes were open, his face frozen in a haunting expression. Stuffed inside his mouth was a note scrawled in a child's handwriting. It read, "This is the beginning of the game. Try to stop me if you can, you stupid police. I desperately want to see people die. It's a thrill for me to commit murder. From now on, every time I see a child, I think of killing them." The note was signed, Seito Sakakibara. The entire city of Kobe was paralyzed with fear. No one could fathom the evil that had committed such a crime. Authorities scrambled to find the killer, but they had little to go on. No fingerprints, no witnesses, only the taunting letter left by a boy who craved the attention of the entire nation. As the investigation continued, a sense of helplessness spread across Japan. The media referred to the killer as the Kobe slasher, while parents kept their children inside, fearful that they too could fall victim to this shadowy figure. But Seito wasn't hiding. He was walking among them. He was a student attending classes, sitting in the same rooms as other children who had no idea that their classmate was capable of such unspeakable acts. No one suspected the quiet 14-year-old boy who appeared as normal as any other. Yet, behind his innocent face, Seito was far from ordinary. He later revealed that he felt no remorse, no guilt for the lives he had taken. In his twisted mind, he believed that the world was a cruel place and that he was merely acting out its inherent darkness. Killing made him feel alive. It gave him the power he craved. The breakthrough in the case came from an unlikely source. Investigators had been scouring the city for any clues, any leads that would point them to the killer. It was then that Seito made a critical mistake. He couldn't resist boasting about his crimes. In a bizarre turn of events, Seito began writing letters to local newspapers, detailing his hatred for society and his urge to kill. In one letter, he wrote about his disdain for the educational system and how he felt alienated from the rest of the world. This led the police to begin looking for someone young, possibly a student, who fit the psychological profile they had been building. Then, on June 28, 1997, Sato Sakakibara was arrested at his home. The news broke with a shocking twist. The serial killer terrorizing Kobe was a 14-year-old boy. His name wasn't released to the public due to Japan's juvenile protection laws, but his alias would become infamous across the country. The revelation sent shockwaves through Japan. How could a child commit such heinous crimes? How could someone so young harbor such deep hatred? As Sato's story unfolded, it became clear that his troubled past, his isolation from his peers, his obsession with violent pornography, and his cruel behavior toward animals had all been warning signs. The media frenzy that followed was relentless. Journalists camped outside his home, while experts debated the implications of a minor committing such grave offenses. Parents feared for their own children, wondering if something like this could happen again. But what shocked the nation most was Sato's lack of remorse. Even after his arrest, he remained cold, detached, and unrepentant. He confessed to the killings in chilling detail, describing how he stalked his victims and the satisfaction he felt when he ended their lives. Sato Sakakibara was sentenced to juvenile detention, where he would remain for several years. Under Japanese law, because of his age, he could not be tried as an adult, a fact that infuriated many. The families of the victims were devastated, knowing that the boy who had taken their children's lives would one day walk free. In 2004, after serving 7 years in a juvenile facility, Sato Sakakibara was released back into society under strict supervision. His release sparked outrage across Japan, with many fearing that he was still dangerous. His real name was never made public, and his whereabouts remain unknown to this day. The Kobe child murders left an indelible mark on Japan. The case led to changes in Japan's juvenile laws, lowering the age at which minors could be tried as adults. It also ignited a national conversation about mental health, youth violence, and the influence of media on young minds. But for the people of Kobe, the scars never truly healed. The memory of that decapitated head at the school gates, the unspeakable loss of Ayaka and Jun, and the haunting presence of a boy capable of such evil, these remain as shadows in the city, a reminder that darkness can lurk in the most unexpected places. And so the name Sato Sakakibara became a symbol, a name whispered with fear, not just in Kobe but across an entire nation. A name that reminds us all of the fragile line between innocence and horror, and how even the brightest of days can be clouded by the darkest of hearts.